In this video, I'll show you one of the longest chess games ever in history. This was played between Magnus Carlsen and Ian Nepomniachtchi. Both of them are professional grandmasters. In the end, after a long, staggering 136 moves, White finally won, which was Magnus Carlsen. Let's see how the game went. It starts with d4 and knight f6. d4 is determined to attack the center. The knight attacks e4. Knight f3. And after a series of moves, this looks a bit like the Catalan. But let's continue. Remember, this is classical chess. Meaning they sold 2 hours. This is game 6, which is one of the most well-known and one of my favorite games. Let's just see how they played. So, after a series of moves, you can see it's plus 0.2, which is not a big deal because both of them are playing really well. So, after moving here, this is really good. The knights are already starting to attack. The bishops are already aligned with the rook. The bishop is about to flee in shadow and attack the square. Let's see how black will deal with this. Because if you take, this is not a great decision because once they take, the rook is under threat and boom, there's lots of attacks underway. So knight b4 and queen to b2. The point of this move is not only running away from escape, but also pointing right at the queen. And possibly bishop to d2 could be a good idea. Bishop to b7, trying to block the rook from being attacked by the queen shadow. Bishop on g2. a3, kicking with the knight. And once again, after a series of moves, this is where the breakpoint happens. So most of the time, this is really good move. Because usually when you open g-file, you need to sacrifice a pawn. Because if you take with the queen, you're going to get to the end game. And lots of the pieces are not activated. So the pawn takes instead. Because in the tournament, they've already drawn some matches. So they don't want to continue drawing matches in the end game. Rook moves to c1, knight to d4, and after a series of trades, the queen moves all the way back to stop a bishop attack. Bishop takes g2. Because now that the black has opened up a g-file, how about they open black's g-file? And that happens. Queen to b7, and the king moves back. It is perfectly fine. As long as they play f4 and do it correctly, they can do it well. Well, while black's is completely open, they can't have a magical pawn that stops them there. Queen moves to e4, queen c2, and after a series of moves, here comes the first strange move. He moves h5. This is not the best move in my opinion. The reason why is because it's not coordinating these bishops, and also they can move it easily. Note that although black has a queen, white has 2 rooks. So it's not. So for beginners, it looks like they're losing, but it's not. Queen h2, queen b2. Now here comes a gigantic blunder. Rook to d1. Rook to d1 is a big blunder and could lose an entire game due to these threats. Queen takes, and after a series of moves, e5, rook c2, and another big blunder from black, which is queen to d5. Rook to d2, queen to b3, rook to a2, and this is a mistake because you could play knight to c5. You could go to these squares. There's lots of options once this pawn is pushed because these squares are not free. Knight to c5. I was right. This is gonna happen. Queen takes the pawn, and okay. So this move is although a blunder because the point of this is after they take, the queen has more spaces to enter. And after a series of moves, everything seems normal at first, like 0.7 is normal position. And then after that, queen f2, and this is like normal way of playing. And after moving here, queen rook to c8, and after a series of moves, the first inaccuracy starts to show up again, and that happens to be bishop to a7. This is not a especially great move because what's the bishop going to do there? It's not going to do anything unless it returns back. It will be taken. It can't go there. It has to go back again, wasting moves. But moving to c7 directly moves it with the queen. And after a series of moves, you can see that like this is pretty good move. The reason why is once you take, you get the bishop. So now it's a knight and a rook versus a queen. Rook, queen to d5, and after a series of moves, this is like proper end-to-end game play here. After this, the queen is moving everywhere, and after a bunch of moves, the queen is repeatedly checking the rooks, checking they're developing the pawns. But who is better here? I believe white is better here. More pawns, a rook, a knight. They can only go here to check really, but that's blocked. They can't really have much squares to go to, and they have lots of promoting pawns to be worried about. They've so much promoting pawns here. And the queen cannot go here. This place is blocked by the knight. h4. And after this, a series of moves, and the king is completely protected. It's protected by these pieces, and you can't really get to here easily. You can only try going here, but that's not the great choice. Knight here and queen, and rook to e2, queen b3 check, king g2, and after a bunch of moves, but here comes the biggest mistake, which happened to be queen to g6. This is on the risk, and this is completely, look at this, 2.6, 2.9, 2.6, 2.4, and then suddenly, look at this, 2 plus 2.4 is already bad enough for black, but then suddenly, 8.9. Did you see that? 2.4 to 8.9. That is such a big jump, and that's a serious blunder. Rook to f7 and the king moves back. Now the queen is completely almost disabled everywhere. And now f5. It is almost over. The queen cannot go to any more match squares. She can only have this rank. It can't take. It can go here to try, but that's just gonna ruin the thing. Queen to g1 is their only hope left, which is not what happened. And knight to g7. Look at this. Look at this. This is another mistake, queen to g1. Look at this. If you thought that plus 2.4 to plus 8.9 is a huge gap, think about when a queen moves to g1. Suddenly, from 7.5 all the way to 57.4 advantage. That's a guarantee to win. It seals it off after 6 to 7 hours. Finally, the game is ended with white victorious, a very first win in this tournament. Because no matter how much you check, the king can move back, and the king moves to safety. Despite all the checks, you can't do anything to stop them. And it's completely over. It is completely over. The pawns are not being able to stop. The best they can do is here, but then after that, they can just simply block, or they'll just... the best they can do is here, but still, they can't do anything else other than that. The king will move in, and then, yeah, it's over. The queen has to stand this rank, and yeah, it's completely over. If you like this video, I have other videos as well. You can click the next video. Thank you and bye.